Hello, everyone, and thank you once again for tuning in to DannieBSpeaks, the podcast. We have a lot to discuss this episode, and as always, I greatly appreciate you for tuning in to all the mess that is going on over here, but that's what I'm here for, is to give you all the mess. So just sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy the show. So the children are coming back with season 2 of Pose on FX, and I cannot wait. I'm really excited to see how each character developed and their storyline, where they're going with it. Of course, we were hit with a cliffhanger last season. I was going to be really pissed off if it wasn't going to come back, but they already announced that it had been renewed, so I'm good. Now, this season will be set in the early 90s. Remember, last season was set, I think it was like the late 80s. Yeah, I think it was the late 80s. The season, it was set then. So I'm really curious to see what happened. You know, they're going to do a time jump. I can't wait to see what they had been up to in these few years from when the show left off to where they're going to pick it up. So again, Pose will be coming back to the FX channel this June. So this past Monday, Jussie Smollett was cleared of all 16 counts for this alleged fake hoax, whatever you want to call it, where he said that he was beat up, and people are pissed. Now, let me just get this fool out the way. Trump wants an investigation with the FBI on this. Now, wasn't he just saying not too long ago, before this Mueller report came out, that he couldn't trust the FBI? They were crooked. All they do is witch hunt, you know, all this other stuff. But now he's all about the FBI because he feels that he was exonerated, which he wasn't. And Jussie wasn't exonerated either. So him and the FBI want to look into why the city prosecutor cleared him of all charges. He had to forfeit his, I think it was $10,000 bond, and he did 2 whole days of community service. So they said that was good enough. They want to focus on more serious crime issues that are going on in Chicago, which I understand that. So many people are feeling so many different ways about this, and especially Rahm Emanuel, who is the mayor of Chicago, and I can't think of the police chief, the black guy who does all the talking, but they are pissed. I mean, they put on a show, honey, the day that this was announced, and they said it is an injustice and all this other stuff, and all the man hours, and just, you know, they believe fully in their heart that he staged this crime and all this other stuff. Now, I truly wish that they could have this type of passion and put the man hours in for crimes where these police officers are shooting unarmed black people. Why aren't you pissed about that when someone's life is taken away unjustly by people who are employed by your city? I just don't get it. They are so mad about this. They want a further investigation. They're disappointed in the prosecutor's office. They want Jussie to pay for his crime that he did. The prosecutor said that they would treat any nonviolent offense this way. So I just don't understand all the festivity that's going on with this particular case when it comes to city officials in Chicago. Y'all got more issues that you need to worry about than this, okay? I mean, Chicago has enough issues, and Trump is one of the main ones that's always talking about Chicago, you know, and all their crime and everything like that. But he wants the FBI to investigate this even further. I mean, the hypocrisy and all this other stuff is just ridiculous, and I'm frankly tired of hearing about it. So it can all just go away for all I care. There's no need to have any further investigation, nothing like that. Just let it go. So finally, Usher has listened to us and has gotten back in the studio with Jermaine Dupri and is recording, or in the beginning phases of recording, Confessions Part 2. Usher, this is all I asked for, was just for you to get back with your old producers, especially JD. You and JD make amazing music together. You always have. And just give us Usher music. You know, I haven't, and yes, that is a real thing, but I haven't been seeing it for Usher. Now, he's had some good songs, but he doesn't have like a My Way or a Confessions, you know, something like that. Even his very first album, where you can actually listen to it all the way through. And I just haven't been able to do that with these last few albums. And I'm just really happy. I was happy to see those pictures. Jermaine Dupri tagged his picture with them in the studio. It just says C2, which of course means Confessions Part 2. And Usher tagged his with This Is What Y'all Want or something like that, or Ain't This What Y'all Want, something like that. And yes, whatever your question was, yes, that's exactly what we wanted. I, for one, am very happy. So I can't wait. I'll be following this because Confessions is everything. And I just feel it in my soul and my spirit that Confessions 2 is going to be everything as well. So I'll be looking out for this. So part 3 of the case of Adnan Syed was on this past Sunday. I watched it yesterday. And again, it comes on HBO Sunday nights, but of course you can watch it on HBO Go, or if you DVR it, whatever. I'm pretty sure it's on demand. But anyway, so part 3, episode 3, whatever you want to call it, mainly focused on Jay, who was the state's witness and the missed alibi of Aisha. I can't think of her last name. She's married now, so whatever they were calling her is not even her last name anymore. Defense is basing the request for a retrial and dismiss of the original case is because Adnan's original attorney from his first trial, where he was convicted, did not follow up on a lot of leads and alibis. She didn't check to see if Adnan was actually at track practice. She didn't try to look for the surveillance tape at the library where he was supposed to go. She didn't check to see if the Best Buy actually had a payphone where he supposedly killed Hay in that parking lot and then called Jay to have him come get him. And that's where he showed him Hay's body and all this other stuff. So it really got deep, and there were a lot of things that weren't mentioned before. And also, I forgot all about this, but Adnan's attorney from back when he went on trial for this murder, Christine Gutierrez, now she was one of the top defense attorneys in all of Maryland. She was real good. She was on top of her stuff, but I guess she started losing money. So she was basically not fulfilling all of her clients' requests and trying to take money from them and not doing what she was supposed to do. So she was disbarred. A lot of her cases were retried because of this action of her not representing her clients correctly. In my opinion, Adnan fills in that same category because she did not follow up on a lot of things that could have been looked into back in 1999, just months after this murder happened. But she neglected to look into a lot of things. And she said that she contacted people who were supposed to be alibis and it didn't check out. She never contacted these people. I mean, it's just really crazy. And I don't understand why he wasn't given a second chance when a lot of her other clients were given another chance and had their convictions vacated. If the city wanted to pursue another trial, they were able to. But it really got into Aisha. And Aisha, she was a classmate of Hay and Adnan. And she's the one that said that she saw him at the library when this murder allegedly took place. She even mentioned that she reached out to Adnan's lawyer and she reached out to the prosecutor as well. But of course, the prosecutor was against Adnan and they were dirty, basically just lied and said that Aisha told them that she just made up this affidavit where she wrote what she remembered about that day, because even the day after Adnan was arrested, she went to his parents' house to let them know that I saw Adnan at the time that they're saying that this murder happened. I was talking to him, and my boyfriend remembers too because he was looking like, who's that you're talking to? You know, and she introduced them and everything. So there were 2 people at least, and there could have been more, who saw Adnan in the library during the time that they are just sure that Hay was murdered. So the prosecutor at the time took the stand about Aisha coming to talk to him, and he basically said that Aisha told him that she was pressured into the family to write this affidavit and she just did it to please them, to get them off her back. And she said, no, that's not what happened at all. saw. And she was never made aware of any of this. She didn't know all that was going on until the episode of Serial originally aired. And that's when she was just kind of thrown off, like, really? Wow. And she felt really bad that she didn't follow up on this anymore. But at that time, even though she didn't trust the cops, she trusted the legal system. And I guess she felt that since he was found guilty, that's what it was, that he was actually guilty. So over the years, they had tried to reach out to her, but she had moved from Maryland to California and her last name changed because she got married. But when they were able to track her down, at first she said she didn't want to have anything to do with it. She did not want to help a murderer get off on these charges of someone who she really liked and cared for, which meant her former classmate Hay. But after talking to Sarah Koenig, she really wanted to get involved again, because if it meant getting Adnan home, as improving that he did not do this because she was with him, then she would do whatever she needed to do. So that's what Adnan's defense team is trying to base all of those factors, between the former attorney messing up to having these alibis. They were trying to get a new trial. Now to Jay. So as I mentioned, Jay is the state's witness. His ex-girlfriend, who they also have a son together, and who he had the cops called on him a couple times with her for beating her, but he was never arrested. And I'll get to that in just a second. She called him on the phone during this show because she said when they were together, she didn't know anything about that. She had no idea that he was involved in this or anything like that. And when she found, this is when they first got together, but as time went on and she found out, he was just kind of short with her. He just said it was a bad time in his life. He didn't want to talk about it too much. He would give her like very little information. Fast forward to, I guess they did this documentary last year, maybe the year before, but she called him, and Jay's living in California right now. He doesn't talk to anybody who he grew up with because no one trusts him, no one likes him. She called him on the phone, and he admitted, and he never had done this before. Even when they found him after Serial came out, the podcast Serial, after they found him then, and The Intercept did an interview with him, he still was sticking to his story, except for, of course, there have been changes, but there have been changes that he's made all along. This happened, that happened, and adding to it, taken away, not remembering that, he admitted to his ex-girlfriend that he basically ratted Adnan out to prevent himself from going to jail on a marijuana charge. And another interesting thing that was brought up in this documentary was the cops didn't record Jay's first interview. And they said, they were asked, how did you come to find out about Jay? And he said that they followed the cell phone calls, because, mind you, Adnan's phone was with Jay the entire day, because Adnan left his car and cell phone with Jay earlier that morning, or maybe late morning, something like that, so he could handle some business and especially go get his girlfriend, who was a very good friend of Adnan's, a birthday gift, because he hadn't. But they did not record his first interview, and they didn't start recording his second interview until they went over these cell phone records. We're going to line up with the stories that he told, and they were some doozies, honey. Many people think that Jay's a paid informant, and that's why he's never spent any time in prison for his crimes that he's committed over the years. I mean, he's been arrested for resisting arrest, and he even body slammed a uniformed officer and still wasn't arrested. So there has to be something that he gave up and has been giving up. That's why people think he's a paid informant, and that's another reason why people don't want to have nothing to do with him. And there's a lot of reasons. Jay is a character, but they were basing these cell phone calls off of all the incoming calls that were coming from all the friends of Jay, because Jay would call them to call him back. Either they missed the call, or they said, or they were talking and they wanted to call him back. They would just hit star 69 because Jay was the one calling them. And a lot of the incoming calls were all from his friends. Adnan did not have one incoming call that whole day. On this facts cover sheet that everyone seemed to ignore or overlook or whatever, it says incoming phone calls aren't reliable because they don't hit from the cell towers in the vicinity of where the phone is exactly located. So if they're basing Adnan and Jay's movements throughout this evening, if they're basing them all on the incoming calls, it's not showing exactly where they were because they were all incoming calls. Okay, so it just doesn't make any sense, but they based Jay's word and these cell phone records as the evidence to to put Anon away for life. Also, during this interview, when they did start recording Jay, you can hear the cops basically when Jay goes off or just forgets what they discussed prior, actually, you can hear the cops like tapping on the table, and people decipher that as them tapping to show him, no, right here, this is the next call, like to go in line with the tape, because you hear Jay say, oh, I'm sorry, during this time and when they're tapping the table. It's just crazy. It's just dirty. And next week this Sunday, I should say, will be the finale, part 4. The end, it basically showed that some DNA evidence that was never brought to trial before is being looked at. Of course, they didn't get into it because it was the cliffhanger, but everyone's saying that part 4 is really going to drop some bombs. So we will see. Part 3 did a lot. This has really been a good series. I'm going to try to watch it again after part 4 airs. I'm going to try to watch all 4 parts again. But this is really good and it's really interesting. And I just hope that the truth eventually comes out. If they can't find any DNA evidence and show that he was not in Hayes' car at all that day, then what did he do? It's just crazy, but we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. So as much as I love YouTube and I watch YouTube all the time, I also love Netflix. Now, Netflix is one thing that I don't see myself getting rid of. To intercept real quick, Apple TV Plus will be coming out. Of course, they didn't say what the cost of it was going to be per month. As much as we pay for Apple products, if you already pay for Apple Music, Apple Plus TV should be free, or you should get a serious discount like $3 a month. I'm just saying. But I'm going to check it out, just see. I'm pretty sure they'll do a free trial and it'll get better as time went on, as Netflix did when you started being able to stream, and as Hulu did. And I like Hulu too, but I just didn't want that extra bill because I have Amazon Prime because I'm a Prime member and I have Netflix. So, I don't need all that other stuff. But I'm going to give a couple recommendations for this week of things that I've been watching or have watched. And I'm going to try to do this every show because there's so much on Netflix, all these original series and everything that just have you hooked. It's amazing. But anyways, The Umbrella Academy. This is a new series that premiered, I think, last month. My friend and I, we started watching it, and we've been watching a bunch of crazy stuff on Netflix. And a lot of it has to do with End of the World. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. But The Umbrella Academy is a 10-part. The first season is 10 episodes, like majority of them are, like majority of Netflix series are 10 episodes. And it's actually very good. Now, when it first started, we were like, what the hell is this? And even when it got more into the show, we couldn't tell if it was a comedy, if it was an action flick, whatever. But once you get into it, it's actually really good. And the story is the bomb. And can I also mention that Mary J. Blige is in it, and she plays an assassin, and Girlfriend is out here kicking ass. It was so good to see her in a role like that. She did a very good job on this, but that's called The Umbrella Academy. It's a series. It's an original series on Netflix. Amy Schumer's stand-up special, Growing. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Amy Schumer. I love comedy. We all need comedy in our life. We need something that we can go into and just get away from everything. But a part of me really does like Amy Schumer. Like I mentioned, I'm not a big fan. I just like how she keeps it real. And it's something about her that just seems genuine, but this was a really good stand-up special. If you just want to get away for a second and you just want to get a couple kikis in there, whatever, I definitely suggest that you watch Amy Schumer Growing comedy special. And lastly, The Murder of Gianni Versace. Now, of course, this was on Netflix last year, and it was a series that went into the murder of fashion icon Gianni Versace, which happened in 95. And I remember when that happened. I was a teenager, but I didn't know much about it. I remember them talking about the guy who did it. And honestly, I couldn't remember what happened to him, but he ended up committing suicide. But it's more of a backstory into him than anything. So that was very good. It won quite a few awards, and it's definitely worth watching. I've probably watched this series 3 times, but it's really good. So those are my Netflix recommendations for this week. Kim Burrell. Dear Kim Burrell, you miserable penguin-shaped, funny-built devil. I am so tired of her. I mean, she is just a horrible person. Now, all y'all church folk, y'all can go up for her as much as you want to, but that says a lot about you. Now, her most recent antics are typical of her, but I'm tired of her getting on her platform in the church and just being hateful. So she came at Fantasia this time, which wasn't even necessary, but she just feels like she's that type of person to where she can just talk about anybody any kind of way they want to, and because she's up on that pulpit, she can do it. No, it doesn't. No, we can't do that. It doesn't mean anything just because you're in the pulpit. It doesn't mean anything. If you're being hateful, then that's just what you are. She basically was just saying that Fantasia is no Aretha, she's no Leandria Johnson. Basically that she can't hold a candle to doing Aretha justice, even though Aretha herself said that she wouldn't mind Jennifer Hudson or Fantasia playing her in a movie. She said that years ago, but Jennifer Hudson will be portraying the late great Aretha Franklin in a movie. But anyway, and of course, I guess it was the person recording it or whatever, and she's talking about, no, she's not. No, auntie, she's not. Disagreeing with her. She knows she's wrong because she gets up there and say, why don't y'all want me to tell the truth? This ain't even about telling the truth. You know what I mean? That didn't even need to be said. She's just always getting on her platform and just being shady and mean. It's one thing just to do it just, in your normal everyday life, whatever. But when you get on that pulpit, you're supposed to encourage people. You're supposed to pray for them. You're supposed to just be this positivity. That's what I always thought. But I guess not anymore. I mean, you are really feeling yourself because you did let your fans know that you have their mortgage payment on your feet, which they didn't even ask for that. But there's that. That's how you feel. But I am so sick of you, and you really need to just go away because this is getting old. This is ridiculous. And to disguise your hate and dress it up as scripture, as gospel, is terrible. I don't understand why people don't realize that karma is real. You're going to be judged. You're over here judging everybody else and saying whatever, but don't forget, you will be judged too on that day. And all the hateful things that you said and the platform that you did it on and the place that you said it, just remember that. So I have another gathering to commence, and Tokyo Vanity. Now, for those of you who don't know Tokyo Vanity, she was this popular social media presence, and she's the one that I guess did that song, That's My Best Friend, whatever. And she's also on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, which I don't watch, so there's that. But this is for Tokyo Vanity and the rest of you that feel this way. And for the millionth time, just listen to me. Either you're gay or you're not. No one can make you gay. If you have gay desires, but you still think you're straight, then you're bisexual. If you act on them or not. There are gay people who don't act on their impulses. There are celibate gay people, but they're still gay. Being LGBTQ is not an action. It's who you are. She went on, I guess she was on IG Live or something. And you know how people who really don't know what they're saying, but they want to say something, they're not scripted or whatever. Their true feelings come out and how they feel about certain things. I hadn't seen what she was talking about before and what led up to this, but she started talking about how TV is making children gay because they want to just throw all this, gay couples and gay people on TV, and it's confusing our children because children are vulnerable. If they see gay people on TV, they're going to think it's all right. Listen, that's not how any of this works, okay? And she did that typical quote unquote fake ally stuff where, of course, say, well, I don't have anything with gay people, but, that whole thing. If you have a problem with gay people being on TV, you have a problem with gay people. If you think gay people are brainwashing your children, do you know how many kids of our generation grew up watching straight people on television because that's all there was? In the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s when we were coming up, there were no gay couples on TV. You may have had a gay character here and there, but they weren't taken seriously. They were like a caricature, and they were there for laughs and giggles and hee-hees and ha-has, which is basically what seems like gay people are only there for, that and to do your hair and style you. But anyway, that's a whole nother subject. But But people of our generation were still gay. It didn't matter. So seeing straight couples on TV did not make them straight. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So, or you could also be saying that when we were growing up, if you were to see gay couples on TV, that you may have ended up gay. I mean, you can't have it both ways. Both narratives don't fit your point at all because it's not real. This fear that people have of their children being gay is just, it's sad. And you're going to mess your kids up if they grow up, were made to feel that who they are horrible, because they're going to take how their family treats them more than the outside world. They're going to take that more to heart. And if you're treating them like crap and telling them that what they're doing is wrong and, we're going to pray the gay away and all this other stuff, you're messing with their mind more than this outside world is. So Tokyo Vanity, Lil Boosie, and all the rest of y'all who believe this logic, I mean, just stop. That's not how this works. So rapper Big Sean did a video the other day where he was basically just saying that he took about a year off from music to focus on himself and to deal with his depression and anxiety. And this to me was very important, especially coming from a Black man, because it's so taboo in the Black community for anybody, but especially men, to admit that they have depression and anxiety issues because they believe it makes them feel weak in a world where they need to be strong and masculine. They don't want to show any weakness. And that's understandable because of what the Black man has to go through day to day. But if you don't take care of these things, then the issue is going to get worse. So I was real glad that he came out and said something, because if people don't know, I suffer from depression and anxiety, and I was diagnosed about 2 years ago. Let me tell you something. I'd never been one for medication. The medication that I'm on for my depression and anxiety has really helped me become a better person. Now, I hope and I don't think that I'll have to be on this medication forever, because I've only been taking it 2 years. I just feel so much better. That on top of becoming healthy and losing weight and being in a job that I actually like, things like that, all this just coming together is very helpful for me. Depression and anxiety are very real. You may not even know that you're suffering from it. And that's the scary part. A lot of people just say, oh, I'm just depressed, or something like that. But unless you are professionally diagnosed, there's nothing that you can do about it. And for him to come out and admit to it that he needed to take a break, especially when his career was just going up. I mean, Big Sean was everywhere. And then you didn't see him for a while, and that's why. And this goes for everybody, not men, not just women, not just Black people, but everyone. We need to learn to be honest, because mental health is as important as your physical health. If you don't get your mental together, nothing else is going to fall into place. For me personally, I didn't know that I was dealing with issues from my childhood, still to this day. And it was making me just a different individual. And I noticed that I was someone who I didn't like, who I didn't recognize. And I tried to take time to myself, and I tried to figure out who I wanted to be. And I tried to get more in touch with my spiritual side. All of that together, it helps. If you don't pinpoint what the issue is, then you're not going to be able to help. And do it for yourself. Even if you have a family, if you have kids or whatever, yes, you want to do it for them, but do it for yourself first, because you're not going to make anybody happy. If you're a parent, if you're a spouse, if you're a grandparent, coworker, whatever, you're not going to be able to function. And that's the scary thing, is not being able to function correctly as you should. And anxiety, now I could have seen myself having anxiety before depression. My anxiety was unnoticed as well, because what I thought was just something else, ended up being anxiety. And one of the things was when I would be out in big crowds, I would instantly get a headache. And I never felt like I had a problem being in these big crowds. I never felt like, I felt closed in or anything like that. That was a part of my anxiety. Lashing out, doing all those different things, when you react to certain things, that's a part of anxiety as well. There are so many factors that go into trying to pinpoint your depression, anxiety, or any other type of mental issue that you have. Also, when I was first diagnosed, I was like, I'm not telling anybody. I wasn't even going to tell my family, because I was just like, this is something I don't want, I don't want them to look at me differently. I don't want anybody to, feel sorry for me or nothing like that. And that's not even the case. That is not the case at all. You need to let people know what's going on. And I know for a fact that me dealing with this and what I went through and what I've been going through and still going through, having mental issues, has not only made me a better person, but it makes other people around you better. You ever been around those people that are just negative all the dang time? I mean, everything everything that they say is just negative. Even when something good happens to them, they're still negative about it. They're just waiting on something bad to happen. That's a part of depression and anxiety as well. So if you're negative all the dang time, you need to get some help for that, because that's not normal. And I see it all the time, and I'm not one to diagnose somebody, because maybe that's just who you are. Maybe you're okay with that. Maybe you're content with that. But there are so many signs out there that we all miss of having these issues. And, even bipolar, having sociopathic tendencies, there are so many things that we all miss. And it's best to figure out what it is sooner than later. But I hope Big Sean and me and other people coming forward and admitting this will help others. Or if it's not you, maybe you see certain symptoms in people around you and you can help them. But don't pressure anybody into, going to seek help, because they have to do it on their own. They can grow to resent you if you keep putting the pressure on them to go get help, because that's when they're going to be like, oh, you think I'm crazy. That's why you want me to go get help so bad. I mean, it's just so much. It's just so much that goes into it. But just be supportive. We're all here to support each other with whatever we do. But as I mentioned, our mental health is as important, if not more important, than our physical health. And they all go together. Trust me, I've learned that the hard way. And we're going to get into more discussions about mental health, other issues when it comes to depression, anxiety, anything like that. Going further, I have a couple people that I'm going to have on the show that have gone through real serious issues when it comes to their mental health. Hopefully, we can all just continue to do better. When you have it right there in front of you and you actually hear somebody's story, there's nothing better than that. It makes it more personable. It makes it not seem as weird, as embarrassing. When you hear people going through things that you may feel like you're going through, or even worse, it makes you open your eyes more. So I hope these topics really do help people. We're all getting older. The longer, it's never too late. You know how they always say you can't teach old dog new tricks? To a point, that's true, yes, with certain things. When it comes to your health, that's something that can be controlled. And it doesn't have to be medication. I'm not saying that everybody needs to get on meds, but just identifying these issues and trying to work on them. Anybody can do that. Now, I've had this conversation with a few close friends of mine, and I just look at certain people and certain things and certain situations, and when they associate with certain people who have these reputations of doing people wrong, just being people who aren't the best, just being people who aren't good people. And it just makes me wonder, do y'all believe that we're judged by the company we keep? And let me break this down. You can have someone, say me and someone else were best friends growing up, but a lot of people don't like me because of things that I've done, things that I've said, the way I act. I'm always getting in trouble. I'm not a good person. But my best friend, the person who I grew up with, the person who's known me longer than any of my other friends, still sticks by me because I haven't done anything to them. So does that make them a bad person? Does that make them condone the things that I do? So that's what I want to talk about, because I see so many people, and I'm going to keep it real. When I was going through some issue with someone who I have a lot of mutual friends with, there were so many people in my inbox that were telling me this person did that and this person did that to them and they did this and they did the same thing. All this other crazy stuff, but you're still associating with this person. And it makes me look at you sideways like, wow. It's the craziest thing. And I can say, that, and these people could be the sweetest people. They could be someone who just doesn't like drama, who doesn't want to get in the middle of things. And that's not what I'm asking. People aren't asking you to get in the middle and choose sides. Like for me, it would be choosing what's right. I wouldn't want to associate with somebody who is out here doing all these crazy things, even if it is just a social media relationship, even if that's the extent of your communication, because some people take social media real seriously. Now, I myself have developed very good, close relationships through social media, and I've never met these people face to face a day in my life. So that's understandable. And maybe you don't see these people who have done others wrong in this way, but guilty by association is a real thing. And you don't want it to be, because as I mentioned, you may not be out here doing the same thing that this person is doing to others. You may not be fully aware of what they're doing. You may not be fully aware of the type of person that they are. It is what it is. I've had to leave people alone who did someone else wrong. And to me, it wasn't about choosing sides, because that's what people want you to do. They want you to choose sides between it's either me or them. And it's not about choosing sides with me. It's about choosing what's right. If I don't agree with something that you did, then I'm not going to deal with you. I mean, we can be cool from a distance, but I'm not going to deal with you on the same level that I did before. And I personally don't want to be associated with someone like that. You know what I mean? Now, we're all grown. No one's going to tell you, because no one's going to tell me who I should and should not hang out with, who I should and should not associate with. It's a decision that I make on my own. But as I mentioned, I'm not doing this for anybody else and to prove that I'm a better person than anybody. There are just certain people whose energy I don't want to be around. And even if it's electronic energy, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if we just talk over the internet, energy is energy. And you're going to soon start to become that person, even if you don't notice it or not. And you're not a real friend to somebody if you can't call them out on their bullshit. And they never were anything to you if they won't listen to you. And it's usually the weakest people who try to prove to be the strongest. If you can embarrass someone, if you can just do things to someone without any conscience, is that someone who you really want to be around? And there's no justification for it, just out the blue. Now, I know a lot of us like drama and a lot of us, like to see stuff. Now, me personally, I'm the type of person that I always say, I don't like drama in my life. I don't want it. I stay away from drama, but I will watch it. I'm just saying, if you're going to bring it to the forefront, then I'm going to participate. I'm going to view. I shouldn't say participate because I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to lurk. But anyway, we all need to be held accountable for ourselves, and that includes who we choose to deal with. Now, there have been certain people that I've cared about, that I really enjoyed hanging around, that I really enjoyed talking to on the phone. But when they do certain things and they treat others a certain way, what are they going to do in turn to you? If you can embarrass someone and just say all these things about them in a public forum so everybody could see, just so you can get a few keys, what are you going to do to me? And especially if you're not even as close. So say my best friend and I, who I grew up with, we fall out and I go on social media and I start telling all the business. Does that make someone who is just an associate of mine think that they're exempt, that I won't do that to them? I'm not trying to be around someone like that. I'm really not. And that's in any capacity. I don't have that in my spirit anymore. I'm in a totally different place. I don't like the mess. I really don't. And people can take me being petty and shady as being someone who's messy, and there are different levels to it. And I'm going to get into explaining that one day, because a lot of people do mistake someone being petty for being messy, and it's not the same thing. Yes, you can be petty and you can be shady and still be messy at the same time, but that's not its full intent. So just let me know what y'all think. Are we judged by the company we keep? And do you just not give a damn about what anybody has to say if anybody's going to look at you differently for hanging around and dealing with certain people who kind of have a reputation, they have a reputation for being horrible people? How do you feel about that? I'm the type of person that I could care less what anybody thinks about me, but for myself, I don't want to deal with it. This is just my opinion. This is just who I am. And I'm not telling anybody what to do, but these are just conversation starters and things to think about. That's why I bring up topics like this. And lastly, I want to discuss what I'm doing to continue my weight loss, because as I mentioned before, I'm a year and a half out. So around the 18th, 19th month, and sometimes it can go into the 20th, but before your 2 years is up, my 2 years will be in August. Before that time is up, your weight loss really slows down, and to some people it stops. What people don't realize is anytime that you're doing any kind of weight loss program, your body has its own goal weight. And that's where I'm at right now. My body had set its own goal weight after my surgery, and this is where it is because it's around that time. What I've lost so far is pretty much what I've lost from the surgery. And of course, things that I did, the way I've changed my eating, working out, stuff like that. But that's what you're supposed to do. You don't have to, but you're kind of supposed to do that when you go on any kind of weight loss program. You have to change some things. It's a lifestyle change. But now I'm pretty much on my own, and I still have about 30 pounds to get to my goal, my personal goal of where I want to be. And I'd even settle for 20 or 25 right now, truthfully. But my goal is 30 more pounds from where I'm at right now is where I want to be, and I'm going to do it. And now that my weight loss has slowed down, which a lot of people are like, well, how's it slowed down? Because you still can't really eat much, which I can eat a lot more than I was able to gradually over time. And you have to watch that because, as I mentioned, I'm able to eat more. So I have to monitor that, because I don't want to go crazy. But still, yes, my stomach isn't able to hold as much food as it was before. But around this time, my metabolism metabolism has slowed down again, so it's up to me to get it going again. I'm going to be 40 years old this year, and I wanted to get to this point before my 40th birthday. So I'm good at where I'm at right now. However, for my personal goal, I at least want to get halfway there before December 3rd, which is my 40th birthday. So if I lose another 15, 20 pounds, I'd be good. I'd be like, okay, yes, then I can do 10 more. And see, the thing is, it's a mind, I was about to say a real bad word. I'm trying not to use the F word on here, but it's a mind F. The weight was coming off so easily at first. It was just like I didn't have to do anything. It was just falling off. And especially within the first 6 months until about the first 7 months until I hit my first weight loss plateau. Then after I got off that plateau, I started losing like crazy again. Then I hit another plateau, and then I started losing crazy again. And then it started coming off slower, but I was still losing. So anyway, all that being said, pretty much what I'm doing now is being more organized, because I really do think I have some OCD going on, and I've always thought that. I have to plan things out, and hopefully I won't have to do this forever, but to continue on this path that I've started, I really need to change a lot of things. Like for instance, tonight I plan on having chicken tenders in the air fryer, and instead of macaroni and cheese, I'm going to do cauliflower and cheese. And all you do is just get the little cauliflower pearls that you can get in the store in the produce section. You just do that, and the cheese you want, and I usually use heavy whipping cream instead of Carnation instant milk, and it tastes just fine to me. Now, I've done the cauliflower before, I've done the broccoli before, and I've done the broccoli and cauliflower mix. So this time I don't have any more broccoli, the little broccoli bits, so I'm going to do the cauliflower. But it's just the way that I'm eating things. Ramadan will be coming up in another month or so I'm going to be doing a fast then. So for the next maybe 2 to 3 weeks for sure, I'm going to do intermittent fasting to get me prepared not only for Ramadan, but also to help me lose some weight. So what I do with intermittent fasting, I started this past Monday, and there are different ways to do it, but I'm just doing, I guess you can call it like the middle level or whatever, because I can't eat a lot anyway, so it doesn't really affect me too much. Now in the mornings, around a certain time, I do get hungry. So what I do is, like, say a weekday and even a weekend, pretty much a typical work day, I have my coffee first thing, I drink a little bit of water, and I have my protein shake. That's basically my breakfast, but it's still a liquid, so I can have it in the intermittent diet. The only thing I can't do on this intermittent fasting is I can't have my morning snack, so I just drink water. So that helps a lot too. Drinking more water around this time, because I tend to drink water more later in the day. It's like it seems like I have to get like my coffee out the way, sometimes my tea, and then sometimes I have tea at night, and in between then, I'm mainly just drinking water. So I get my 64, sometimes more ounces in a day, but it's easier now that I'm drinking water throughout the day to not get hungry. So pretty much I just eat between, my first meal is at 11 in the morning, which that's not bad for me because I get up early. So around 11 o'clock, yes, I'm getting hungry, especially not eating all day, not having any food, I should say. So I have my lunch around 11, and then around 1, I have a snack, and then around 3, I have like a little bit more of a heavier snack, and that's usually by the time I get off work. When I get home, if I'm going into the office, it'll be around 3:15, 3:30 if I come straight home. If not, I'll grab something, like I'll have another protein shake, or I'll have maybe a protein bar, just something that I can have on the go if there is something I have to do, like if I'm going to get my hair cut, if I have an appointment, if I'm going to meet somebody. Between 3 and 3:30 is usually my typical lunchtime. So technically my second meal. And then around 5, and mind you, within this time, I'm still drinking water. So I'm not really that hungry, but I'm still eating. So around 5, I may have like a little snack, like I may have an apple, I may have some peanuts, just something that'll get me by until about 6:30 going on 7. And that's when I have my dinner. And then when I'm done with my dinner, it's just back to maybe I'll have a cup of tea before I get ready to go upstairs and relax, but I'm definitely drinking water the rest of the evening. So that has really helped me. I haven't weighed myself in about a little over a week. So I'm going to do that maybe this Saturday morning. I'm going to do it just to see where I stand and what I need to do and how the first week of intermittent fasting has done. Now, I've done intermittent fasting before, but it was a little while ago and I wasn't able to eat as much as I am now. So we'll see how that goes. But what I'm doing right now is pretty much the same thing I've been doing, but I'm doing the intermittent fasting to try to help build up my metabolism again by drinking more water, being more active, which I definitely need to start doing. It's getting warmer, so I'll go back out and start riding my bike. I'll be able to go for more longer walks outside. I won't feel like going straight home after work because it's freezing and all I want to do is just get home. Sometimes when I leave work, I'll just go straight to the gym and hang out there for about an hour, do some cardio, maybe shoot a couple hoops. There are plenty of things that I'm doing to try to continue and not maintain, but continue. Yeah, I've gained weight, which is typical, of course, especially around this time. You do have a weight gain, but it's nothing crazy and it's nothing that I can't take off, and especially being a woman, our weight fluctuates anyway between 4 or 5 pounds. So it happens, but it's not like stressing me out, the weight gain that I had, but it's just being more structured than I was before because I am able to eat more, showing that discipline that I've learned throughout this process and the way I eat things. And I've been trying not to eat too much red meat because it does sit on your stomach a lot. However, you do need red meat in your diet. Not that you need it, but there's nothing wrong with it. But I just personally just try not to eat too much of it. And that's just me. That's always been me because having stomach issues, red meat just always just made me feel just full. And like my stomach was about 5,000 pounds. But that's what I'm doing. Still going out, living my life, still pretty much eating what I want to within reason, but just continue to remain active, eat right, make sure you eat. You have to eat. Do not starve yourself because you're setting yourself up for failure. Try to snack in between meals. And if you want to get some chips or something like that, just don't eat the whole bag. And I'm talking about the little bags. I'm not talking about the big bag. I hope you wouldn't eat the whole bag. If you want to, some pretzels or something, you can have that. There's nothing wrong with that, but just be smart. That's the biggest thing you can do is just be smart. So thank you once again for tuning in to this week's show. As always, I really do truly appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to listen to the show, going over to DannieBSpeaks.com and reading the blog. And as always, just remember that you can listen to the podcast on DannieBSpeaks.com, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and Stitcher. And as I mentioned, don't forget to check out DannieBSpeaks.com. I really want to open up my forum to other people. So if you have things that you want to write, and what I mean by that is if you're a writer, you just have something that you want to get off your chest that pretty much goes with the format of the podcast, of my blog, any of that stuff, which is pretty much open because as you see, if you go over there, I write about anything pretty much that comes to my mind, the same as I do with this podcast. And the same goes for the podcast. I really want to open it up to you all to get on here and just talk. Let's just have conversation. Let's have feedback with each other. If you don't agree with something I say, let's come on here and let's have a healthy, grown adult debate and discuss it. If you want to give your input to anything that I discuss, if you want to come on here and discuss something that you feel may help other people in your journey or what you've seen someone else go through, please hit me up and we will definitely work that out. Just hit me up on my inbox, DannieBSpeaks@gmail.com. And if you want to remain anonymous and just send me questions, comments, concerns, hit up DannieBSpeaks@gmail.com. And if you have anyone that you would like me to endorse, anything that you'd like me to endorse, promote, once again, DannieBSpeaks@gmail.com. So as always, thank you all for tuning in to this week's podcast. And we'll continue all these discussions on next week's podcast, future podcasts, as well as over at DannieBSpeaks.com. So as always, peace and blessings and have a wonderful week. Peace.